Hello everyone and welcome back to my garden. Today is May 15th. Current temperature is 79 degrees Fahrenheit, 26 Celsius. The dew point is 69 degrees, which means that it is very humid today, which makes it less than ideal for today's activity. Today I'm going to be harvesting the barley. It won't matter too much because it's going to have to spend some additional time drying down anyway. So I am generally pleased with the barley this year. I don't know how much the yield will be. I'll have to find out after it's all processed. But for the most part, I think it's going to yield a little more heavily than barley I've planted before. The grain heads are larger, and I'm kind of going to put that down to having fall planted it instead of spring planting it. But as you can see there, it's looking pretty crispy. It does still have some green in it. That's fine. Like I said, it's going to be spending some time drying down in the garage. There are different ways of telling that it's ready to harvest. The sort of ideal way would be to come out here with your moisture meter and measure the moisture in all the grain. I don't have the sort of equipment that professional farmer would have. You probably don't either. But I think that the way it is right now will do. If we look at the grain heads here, you can sort of see that some of the stalks, like that one right there, are still kind of green. That is a sign that it is not mature. I have checked the individual grains themselves. They're fine. Some of the stalks, like that one right there, don't know how well I can get the focus on it. That one is clearly mature. The stalk has turned brown. Anyway, what's going to happen with this is I'm going to go through and I'm going to harvest it, and I'll do that on camera. It'll be sped up, but I'm going to take and harvest this. It will just get cut at ground level with a hand sickle. That's the sickle I will be using right there on the ground. Notice that there are gloves next to it. You must use gloves when using a sickle like this. I have cut my thumb before and needed stitches in it. I don't recommend at all that you ever come anywhere near one of those sharp sickles without wearing gloves. But it's going to get cut off. It's going to get stuffed into the bucket to make a bundle. The bundles will be tied with the string, and then it's going to go in the garage where it will dry down. Now, just to talk about more of the processing before I go and do the harvest, I'll be taking it and letting it dry in the garage. But while it's drying, I will take and pluck all the heads off of the stem. Let's see if I can get in there and do this. Just like that. And the reason to do that is really just to help it dry down a little faster. The straw contains moisture, and so the more moisture you can remove from the area that you're drying it down, the faster it will dry down. And I will probably let it dry down for a couple of weeks, but after it has had that time to dry down, it'll get threshed. And I'm not going to show the threshing in this video because it needs a couple of weeks to dry down. But threshing just consists of breaking up the grain heads so that the grain falls out. I've seen lots of ways of doing this on YouTube. As far as I know, they all work decently. You can rub it between some blocks with some sort of rough surface on it to sort of break up the grain head. Some people do threaded rods with chain on them, spun around in a 5-gallon bucket to break up everything. That probably works too. I usually just take and wear a pair of heavy gloves and just crush the heads up by hand. That works well also. It works better the more dry it is. So the more dry the grain head is, the easier it is to crush it up and separate all the chaff later on. After the grain heads have been crushed so that the grain is free, it's then mostly a process of just pouring it back and forth between containers with a fan blowing. to sort of get the lighter weight material, which is the chaff, to separate from the heavier grains. Not hard to do at all. I will probably show more of the processing when I do the wheat. The wheat is still very green, so kind of nice to have a staggered maturity here so that you don't have to do it all at once. Incidentally, the oats is flowering, so there's that too. Anyway, once it's winnowed, it's mostly done. Getting it well winnowed can be difficult though, to get all of the material out of it. I usually do take and weigh it and then wash it. All the chaff will float up to the top when you get it in water, and then take and run it through the food dehydrator until the weight gets back down to even lower than it was before. That's just an indicator. Once it's re-lost all the weight, that means that you've dried it back out to where it was before. And once it's completely dry, you can just store it in a sealed container at room temperature. You do need, before you wash it, if you're going to do that, you need to go ahead and set aside your seed before you do that, because putting it through the food dehydrator will damage the grain because of the heat of the dehydrator. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and put this phone on the tripod and start harvesting grain.